Mr. Chair, we're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Richmond Hill. I would ask that we would start this evening's meeting with the reading of the preamble, please.
Today's Committee of Adjustment meeting is hereby held as an electronic meeting in light of the current COVID-19 emergency. The COVID-19 emergency is the emergency declared by the Province of Ontario pursuant to Order in Council 518-2020, Ontario Regulation 5020, on March 17th, 2020, and by the City of Richmond Hill on March 20th, 2020, under the provisions of Section 701 and Section 41 of the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. The Committee of Adjustment is authorized to hold this meeting electronically as a tribunal under the Statutory Powers and Procedures Act, in accordance with the Hearings and Tribunal Proceedings Temporary Measures Act. Due to efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 and to protect all individuals, city facilities are not presently open to the public to attend Committee of Adjustment meetings. The Committee of Adjustment for the City of Richmond Hill has been appointed by Council to consider applications for minor variance and consent in accordance with the Planning Act. The committee's decision may be appealed to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. All appeals and associated fees must be filed directly with the Secretary-Treasurer in accordance with the Planning Act. To be notified of a Local Planning Appeal Tribunal hearing, you must request a copy of the committee's decision in writing. Written comments. The public may submit written correspondence regarding agenda matters by email to committeeofadjustment@richmondhill.ca. All written correspondence received by 4:30 p.m. today has been provided to the committee members electronically. Electronic delegations. Delegates are reminded to please mute your microphone or phone and turn off video until it is your turn to speak. Please make sure your microphone is not muted when you begin speaking. Every registered delegation will be provided 5 minutes to speak. The clerk will announce when you have 1 minute left and when your time is up. If members do not have questions or after all questions have been asked, your delegation is over. Please sign off of Zoom or hang up the phone once the committee has made a decision on your application. You may watch the rest of the meeting on our live stream, and the clerk may remove any delegate who does not sign off of Zoom.
Thank you. Do we have any conflicts of interest this evening, gentlemen? I see none. And do we have any requests for adjournment or withdrawals?
Here, Mr. Chair, we do not.
Thank you. I've overstepped myself here and jumped ahead. So let me just introduce our Secretary Treasurer as Mrs. Jaime Hope Herman. Our Assistant Secretary Treasurer is Ms. Andrea Clement, and assisting us this evening from our Planning Department is Ms. Simone Fiore. We have 2 applications here at 116 Weldrick Road, but it seems to me that given the nature of the severance that it might be an idea if we dealt with 116 and 114 together. So unless I get an objection from our presenter, I'm going to ask that we deal with B012/20, A024/19 at 116 Weldrick Road, and B013/20 and A028/19 at 114 Weldrick Road West. Do we have our presenter?
Yes, sorry. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
It's Michele Circelli. How is everybody tonight? This evening?
Oh, thank you.
Good. So I'm not sure what I'm supposed to present. I know that I'm here on behalf of the severance that we're now applying for the properties both at 114 Weldrick and at 116 Weldrick, which are severances of the northern portions of the lots. Those northern portions of each of the lots have a retained portion and a severed portion, and the two severed portions are going to combine to form a new lot, which would be a third lot, which would face onto Kersey. That sort of paraphrases the applications. The applications are there to retain the existing homes that are there, both at 114 and at 116 Weldrick Road. So the applications are asking for variances, I believe, on distance to the back property lot. There's a variance there, so I'm not sure how much more detail we want to get into the applications, or if I need to read certain some of the material that's been presented. I'm sure that everybody on the call must have it in front of them, or would have read the material on the applications. Sorry.
That's okay.
Am I?
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah,
No problem.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if that paraphrases, if anybody has any questions on what the severances are requesting, or if there's any issues or things that we need to do for these severances that we're applying for.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I failed to ask if we had any further correspondence on these applications.
Mr. Chair, we do not.
And do we have anyone in the audience that wishes to address these applications at 114 and 116 Weldrick Road West?
Mr. Chair, we do not.
Thank you. Any further comments from our planning department?
No further comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And from our committee members, any comments, questions, concerns? In that case, I'll entertain a motion. Member Master.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that the two applications at 116 Weldrick Road, being B0112/20 and A024/19, be approved with conditions contained therein, as well as the two applications located at 114 Weldrick Road West, being application number B013/20 and A028/19, be approved with conditions contained therein.
Moved by Member Master, seconded by Member Duretzi. All in favor? I see 4 hands. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Can I ask just one small question? Is there?
5 hands, sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Just one question. There's no, I guess there's no opportunity to see what those conditions would be, or are there just conditions that we'll receive in writing and then address at that point, I guess, right?
Those conditions are already in the staff report.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, it's the conditions that are in the staff report right now. Those are the ones that are being referred to.
Okay.
Okay,
And those are going to be distributed at some point post this call, I'm assuming.
well, I
From
have
Andrea
to
Long.
assume that by getting that Battaglia Architect Inc. has got a copy of these reports.
Yes. Yeah, I just haven't gotten a copy of them yet. Yep, I'll follow up. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Our next applications, application B032/20, A046/20, and A047/20 at 76 Harding Boulevard. Do we have any additional correspondence on these applications?
Mr. Chair, we do not.
Thank you. Go ahead, please. Your microphone is muted.
Oh, hello. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Frank Rotundo. I'm acting as the agent on behalf of the owner.
And I am the owner. I'm the owner, Pat.
Oh, there's
which
the
I'm
owner there.
unmuted. Yeah.
Very good. Okay.
Okay, so just a quick synopsis. We're taking this 88-foot lot and we're splitting it into two parcels of land, both 44 feet wide by about 130 feet deep. So our design intention was to do something within the parameters of the neighborhood and consistent to the streetscape. And what we tried to do during the design was really try to relate the same setbacks and height restrictions as that was requested by the neighbors' variances. So we tried to meet the same standards. Otherwise, I don't really have anything else. I don't know, Pat, if you have anything to add.
No, not really. It's quite a simple severance, actually. Again, it's in keeping with what I think has been conducted on the street to this point. So.
I think that's it. Are there any questions? Or?
Yes.
Thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address these applications at 76 Harding Boulevard?
Hey, Mr. Chair, there are none.
And any further comments from planning?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no further comments.
You gentlemen, comments, questions, concerns? Mr. Duretzi.
For you, Mr. Chairman, just a comment to the applicant and the owner in these, for future consideration in these types of infill situations, it's always best to try to maintain the existing location of a driveway. I noticed that 76B is sort of reversed from the previous location of that driveway. In doing so, sometimes you can save one or two trees. So I have no issue with what you're requesting here, severance and variances, but just a point for future consideration. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments? In that case, I will entertain a motion. Mr. Gandhi.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that consent application B032/20 and related applications A046/20 and A047/20 at 76 Harding Boulevard be approved subject to the terms and conditions laid on the city staff report.
By Member Gandhi, seconded by Member Gossi. All in favor? I see 5 hands. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next application is application A051/19 at 9160 Bayview Avenue. Do we have any additional correspondence on this application?
Hey, Mr. Chair, we received a letter of objection from 223 Duncan Road on October 16th, 2020. Their concern was that the applicant had submitted a parking justification study to be reviewed. Residents had been left out of seeing the study and participating. And they also note that there is a high traffic down on Duncan Road and many cars parking on Duncan Road. We also have a planning addendum and a revised drawing. So basically the planning addendum was that the applicant had revised their proposal due to the parking justification. It's basically that the proposal is to use a portion of the existing building's basement to be used for an X-ray laboratory.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Adam Layton. I'm a planner with Evans Planning Inc. here on behalf of the owner of the property at 9160 Bayview Avenue, 9160 Bayview Inc. The building, I do have a presentation, so I will share my screen. Oh, apparently I cannot do that. In any event, I did send a presentation into the committee. I'm not sure if that was circulated to the committee. But either way, the property at 9160 Bayview Avenue is at the southwest corner of Bayview and Duncan Road. It consists of a 2-story medical office building and a associated surface parking lot with 51 spaces. So I'm on the first slide. You can see it right there. Next slide, please. This gives you a view of the building that was from Bayview Avenue. And the next slide shows you a view of the parking lot from Duncan Road. My client purchased the property in 2019, and his interest is in demising the basement of the structure, which is currently vacant and not utilized. And he is seeking permission to to demise the basement to put in an X-ray lab facility, which would be accessory and ancillary to the other medical uses that currently operate within the building. There's no exterior alteration or exterior renovation required in order to do so. However, we do require a variance from the parking rate. As you can see, the parking exists in a generally harmonious manner with the surrounding neighborhood. If I could go to the next slide. And the site plan here shows that there is unfortunately no room to expand or otherwise repaint the parking to gain more spaces. We did a number of analyses with our traffic consultant, who is on the call in the event there are any questions. And it was determined through study and through analysis that through the implementation of a number of TDM measures, which do not exist at the property right now, there are no TDM measures in place, that the proposed parking supply would be suitable for the addition of the X-ray lab in the basement. I should note the lab is about 2,000 square feet and would employ 2 people. Exams would be by appointment only. And some, if not the majority of the attendees of this X-ray lab, would likely be already visiting the site to see another medical professional. Some of the TDM measures that are to be implemented include the installation of a carpool parking space, which is shown here right by the main entrance in the accessible parking area. We're looking at also installing a number of bike parking spaces along Bayview Avenue. And if we could go to the next slide. We are also looking at installing a bike locker room in the basement for long-term bike storage. That would be for employees. And the purple area, this would be the amended plan. We just added this purple hatch to make it a little clearer as to what the area of the basement is proposed to be demised for the X-ray lab. The rest of the basement, as you'll see in the bubbled area here, is to remain as vacant storage area. We've committed to an ongoing monitoring program with city staff to monitor the impacts of the proposed additional office space before any plans would be undertaken to further demise the basement and add more office space. I should also note some other TDM measures that are to be implemented would be the installation of notice boards and the provision of York Region Transit information such as bus routes in the main lobby, as well as the provision of preloaded Presto passes to employees of the building to help further encourage the alternative transit methods using transit as opposed to vehicular parking. I would note that the parking supply that is required, again, it numerically does appear large. However, it's the opinion of our traffic consultant that would be an oversupply of parking. And considering the location abutting Bayview Avenue, as well as the general overall intent to try and get people out of cars and using transit and bicycling, we agree with the conclusions of staff that the proposed parking rate is suitable and appropriate, and that the proposed variance meets the 4 tests. And I'm happy to answer any questions. As I noted, we do have the transportation consultant that prepared the parking study, as well as the operator of the proposed X-ray lab on the call in case there are any questions.
Very good, thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to address this application at 9160 Bayview Avenue?
Here, Mr. Chair, we have Ms. Christina Summers.
Oh, hello.
We're waiting for Ms. Christina Summers.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, how are you? Good evening. My daughter, I'm representing my daughter, working with my daughter. I'm her father, Peter, and I live at 223 Duncan Road. And I just have a couple of questions to ask if I could. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Good, excellent. Just regarding the building, first of all, you said it's a 2-story. We noticed there's a loft in there, and in the past, that loft has been utilized for business purposes. I don't know if the individual representing the building is aware of that. That's the first question. Second question is, we're going from 117 spaces that were the bylaw requirement down to 51 spaces. And in the past, as up to pre-COVID, parking on the street has been horrendous. It's very difficult to get in and out. They park on both sides. And north of just across the street from the building in question, they're also constructing a 3-story building also. I don't understand how this will work, not to mention you're utilizing the basement. You're going to now expand the basement into a lab, which I find hard to believe that there won't be more people coming in. Parking, like I said, is maxed to the limit. And even with public transit, I don't know how this will work, quite frankly. There are no parking signs on our street. We requested that in the initial building of the building. We also requested a left-hand side, no left-hand turn. They didn't appease us on that. We even requested maybe a lighting system, like basically traffic signals or lights to control traffic and flow. Nothing was addressed. And now they're looking to go from 117 to 51, which I don't know how that's going to work down here.
But there's not 117.
And there's not right now. Actually, it's sitting at 51. But originally, you asked for 117. We're down to 51. It's awful, and that's all I'll say. The parking down here is awful, and I wish somebody would come and have a look. I truly do. I've spoken to Mr. DePaula. I've spoken to Godwin Chan, who gave me no input on anything. But anyways, we'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address this application at 9160 Bayview?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are none.
Do you have any further comments from planning?
And no further comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have to admit, I looked at the numbers here and I thought that that was a significant variance in terms of the minus 66 spaces here. Now, I understand there's a parking study that's been done and that the gentleman that did the parking study might be here and available to address some of the concerns that were mentioned. Right now, it's very difficult to have a look at the site and determine just whether or not parking is a problem because of the COVID situation. But I can imagine, and certainly we heard from the resident that in the past, it has certainly not been ideal. So maybe we can hear from our parking study specialist, please.
Hi, my name is Jonathan. I'm from Transplan. We did the parking study for this variance. I just wanted to point out that the parking requirement before this variance is 72 spaces. Compared to the 51 spaces that are provided. After the variance, it'll be 117 spaces, but we do note that the 117 spaces is based on GFA, and this GFA includes the entire basement area rather than just the additional unit that occupies about a third of the basement area. So the parking requirement is a bit overstated because of this.
And what about all the street parking that we heard about?
So we reviewed the parking demands at the site for 3 days. We did have a surveyor there during the peak hours. We did find that it was most busy around noontime. I'm not sure if this is what you've noticed as well. But the maximum parking demand that we saw when we were there was 49 spaces that were occupied. Compared to the 51. And we did try to note any spillover that occurred from the parking lot onto the roadway. And this number does include any parking, spillover parking as well. So we do know that it was generally sufficient and contained.
If I may add, these parking studies were done pre-COVID. Not 3 days in a row, but on 3 separate instances. And the parking study results have been vetted through transportation and planning staff at the city. It should be noted, of course, that there are many different ways to assess parking. And when we do apply for the parking rate, we look at the maximum worst case situation. And in this case, in addition to the surveys that we did on site, we also looked at the existing operations of the X-ray laboratories, other facilities in other municipalities. And based on actual patient data and employee data, utilize that as part of the analysis of the proposal. And that is what led to both our consultant and city staff looking at the analysis and coming to the conclusion that the proposed parking rate was sufficient.
I have one more question for our applicant, and that was a question from the resident about the two-story loft. Is there a significant issue there?
Certainly, we don't believe so. I am aware that there is a loft, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was accounted for in the parking study.
Okay, thank you.
My turn. Can I speak or no?
Mr. Summers, go ahead one more time.
Terribly sorry for cutting into you. I have to dispute it all. I'd love to know when these studies were done, time of day, if they've done on a Saturday or in the evenings. I've lived down here for 25 years, and I can tell you it is a debacle for parking. And when they add the building on the north side, when that is completed, it'll be a nightmare down here. And I'd like to know what significant traffic or parking demand means for the basement. Is it significant 1, 5, 10? Not to mention they did leave out the loft, and the loft was utilized, and maybe it still is utilized for business purposes. I can tell you, and I will swear upon my children, that the parking down here is horrendous. When this is finished, it'll be worse than it is already. And like I said, we have requested a study for parking signs or no parking, and it's fallen on deaf ears. And like I said, and bottom line, the paper in front of me right now says bylaw requirement 117 spaces, proposed 51. I could see 4 or 5 spaces, 8 spaces, but 50. That's a difference of over, what's that, 50, almost 60 spaces. How do you go from that?
But there's only 51.
Mr. Summers, I have a question for you.
Shoot.
You say that you've requested no parking signs?
Oh, we started when this building went up. We asked for that, and
you do not have that situation now.
Zero.
Okay.
And
thank you very much.
We even requested a left-hand turn, no left-hand turn, so they would exit onto Bayview. Fell on deaf ears.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have does anyone else in the audience wish to address this application at 9160 Bayview Avenue?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
And do we have any further comments from our planning department?
No further comments, Mr. Chair.
Or did I ask for this already? Sorry. I think I jumped in after that was all done. My apologies. Okay. Gentlemen, do we have any comments, questions, concerns? Mr. Gandhi.
For you, Mr. Chair, just the gentleman who was Mr. Lee, I guess, for the parking. You did the study and you said that 49 spaces was your maximum that you found being utilized during your testing or your site analysis. How can you explain just 2 more extra spots when you have a new facility? You have an X-ray facility coming in. You're going to have more and more people coming in. I have been in that area as well, and with Mr. Summers, I agree. I've seen the traffic in that neighborhood. I've seen it. I've been in Richmond Hill 32 years as well, and I've seen that traffic build up considerably. I just can't understand how you're saying the 49 spaces was the max, and you're going to look at putting in an X-ray studio where you're going to have more people coming in. How do you justify 2 extra spaces taking care of that overflow that you're going to have with something new, with a new building there, or with a new facility there?
So that's why we proposed a few transportation demand management measures. So this includes the bicycle parking and the transit passes that Adam mentioned in his presentation. So in implementing these measures, we hope to reduce the reliance on auto travel to the site in favor of transit and cycling.
Well, with all due respect, I don't know. I think that's a great idea, but I don't think, based on the community, based on what the facility is and what it's an X-ray facility, I don't think people will be cycling that often to do that. And what are you going to do in the wintertime? They're not going to be cycling in the wintertime. So, based on what I'm seeing, I do have a very hard time in approving the application the way it is. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Any further comments, gentlemen? Yes, Mr. Master. We can't hear you, Mr. Master. Your mic is off.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. I completely agree with Mr. Gandhi, especially regarding the bicycle and transit issues. The mitigating factors don't convince me, and I just want to record that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeRetzi.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I am looking at a memo from the planning department from Philip Liu. There was a correction to what the required parking spaces are, and that's 93. So the 117, I believe, is no longer valid, and planning can confirm that. So we're talking about a difference of 42. So, you know, we see 117, I heard 72, there's a 93. So it's a little confusing, but the city's letter has updated that calculation. My second point is, I do believe that these traffic studies or any other studies are available to the public under the Freedom of Information Act. I believe that's correct. It would have been nice if this study was put into the hands of the Summers. I know probably time was insufficient to do so. But at the end of the day, we have a traffic study that was submitted to the engineering departments, and they are the experts in terms of reviewing these reports. So that's the technical information that we have to rely on. I know in some instances there is not a traffic report submitted. In this particular case, there was one, and it was reviewed by staff. So that's really all I have to go with. So I don't particularly have an issue with this application this evening.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Mr. Gossi. Your mic is off.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I echo Mr. Masters and Mr. Gandhi's concerns. I do have a couple questions and I have a comment. I'll go with the comment first. So I visit that building a couple times a year. My podiatrist or my foot specialist is in that building. So I've seen the traffic. I mean, I could just look on Google Maps and I can see that, you know, just arbitrarily 2/3 of the parking is taken up. And not knowing exactly what time that photo was taken, I could probably go back in history and map out how many other dates, you know, photos were taken and how many, what percentage of the parking spots were used up. So I have concerns about that as well. My question is, what's the contingency for those residents that need to go to that facility and then there's no parking? What do they do?
I have no idea. Do we have any other concerns, gentlemen? In that case, I will entertain a motion. Mr. DeRetzi.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that minor variance application A051/19 at 9160 Bayview Avenue be approved, subject to the conditions in the city's staff report.
Moved by member DeRetzi, seconded by member Wilton. All in favor? Opposed? I only see two hands opposed. Are we not voting, Mr. Gossi?
I'm sorry, I dropped off the line there for a while. I don't know what happened to my internet connection. I was mid sentence and it just cut me out.
All right, we had a motion by Mr. DeRetzi, seconded by myself to approve the application. We voted 2 in favor so far. And then I asked for opposed. Can I have a vote of opposed, please? Mr. Gossi, are you not voting this evening?
I wanted to finish my comment before we actually went to vote. If that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just actually cut off on the internet and I'm just having some problems today. Yeah, so my question was, what do residents and patients do who need to visit that facility and there's no parking available at that time?
I suppose if you would like to answer that, Mr. Layton, that's fine. Your mic is off. There you go.
If I may, in the past, the owner has sought and entered into an agreement with a nearby property, the church that is about 100 meters south on Bayview, to secure a supply of pool parking in the event that there is no parking available on site. I'm sure that can be re-engaged or re-entered. It was that the offer was removed when, as part of the review of the file, as analysis and comments from the city indicated that that might not be a preferable option. However, if that is the request, or if that is deemed to be a desirable, shall we say, fallback by the committee, then I'm certain that we can similarly secure the oversupply parking pool.
The only other comment I would offer you, Mr. Gossi, is that we may be looking at people parking on Duncan, which is why we heard comments from the resident, Mr. Summers.
Right. Yes, Mr. Chair, I understand that. Through you, Mr. Chair, just another question. How many handicap parking spots are there currently, and then how many are there planned to be for the reduction in parking spots?
If I may, there is no changes planned to the accessible parking supply. There are, I believe, 2 spaces on site right now. Is there 4? My mistake. Oh, yep, my correct. There are 4 handicap parking spaces, accessible parking spaces right now. We are not proposing to change that, but we are proposing to also add a carpool space. We could also, if we are looking at the overflow parking pool, we could look at ensuring that there is additional accessible parking spaces located on that site, if necessary.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr.
Yes.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Before going to a vote, I just wanted to make the comment that I'd personally want to take another opportunity to look at the study more in depth. I did have an opportunity to go through it. I feel that perhaps there were elements of it that would help refresh my memory of it, given that I'd done it a number of days ago. That may help with my decision. So, Mr. Chair, is it possible that we can create, that we can raise an alternative motion, perhaps to do a deferral? Is that something that we can do, or is the motion on the floor at this point that was originally passed?
Well, apparently the motion that was on the floor was cast out of line because we didn't give you a chance to finish. I'm assuming that we may have jumped the gun there. Would that be something you would agree to, Mr. Duretzi?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I am not sure if Mr. Gossi heard my comments, or was I cut off as well?
Yeah, there were points in and out that I think that people were cutting off. I apologize. I don't know what's happening with my internet today, but I can tell you I did hear part of the comments, Mr. Duretzi.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind repeating it for my benefit, I apologize to the.
Okay, so very quickly, we do have a letter that was issued by the planning department, and they redid the calculation in terms of the required spaces, which is 93, not the 117. So we're talking about a deficiency of 42 spaces, okay? That was one of the comments. The other comment was, at the end of the day, we have a traffic study that was submitted to the city's engineering department. That's the technical information that this committee has before us, and they found it to be acceptable. So I don't have a problem with this application based on that. Those were my comments.
I see.
And I move the motion to approve the application.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to ask your Secretary Treasurer a question regarding procedure. Do we need to vote on a particular motion as it's been raised, or can we raise an alternative motion? An alternative one at the time? Something with different conditions.
Through you, Mr. Chair, you can put on the floor an alternate motion.
So we've had a motion to approve, and now we're looking at an alternate motion. And we deal with the alternate motion first. Is that what we would do?
Yes, you can do that, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Do we have an alternate motion, Mr. Gosson? Go
Through you,
ahead.
Mr. Chair, I would like to raise the motion that we defer this application for a week so we could better study the particulars of this application. And thank you.
We have a motion to defer this application, and I heard for a week, but
Oh, I'm sorry. Till the next meeting. I apologize.
thank you. So we have a motion to defer. Do we have a seconder for that motion? We do not have a seconder. So your motion fails. We will default to the first motion, which was to approve the application, moved by Member Duretzi, seconded by Member Wilton. All in favor? And opposed? 3 opposed. The application fails. Thank you very much. Our next application is application A045/20 at 100 Mill Street. Do we have any further correspondence on this application?
Hey, Mr. Chair, we do not.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. It's Larry Erdl here. I'm the surveyor that's, I guess, responsible for creating the application. And actually, I was wondering, would we be able to hear A044/20 and A045/20 together? It's basically, they were built at the same time, and it's the same, relatively the same problem with it.
No, I'm sorry, I can't, because I don't have a report in front of me. The only report I have is A045/20. I do not have another one.
Oh, okay.
Can I just double check with our secretary treasurer as to the existence of any report on that application?
2 reports?
There should be 2, yeah. A 44 and a 45.
Through you, Mr. Chair, can I just ask any of our other committee members, are you all missing 45?
I have 45.
I have it.
I have 45. I don't have 44.
Is anybody else missing 44?
I have 44 and 45.
Okay.
I have them both. Yeah. I
You've
have
got
them both.
them?
Yep.
Mustafa, do you have it?
Yes, I have them both.
Okay, and Dean, do you have it as well?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Just give me a moment, Mr. Chair.
One's at 98 Mill Street and the other one's at 100, is it? I see it on your, I see it on the overall list, but I don't have a report. I guess if everybody else has got the report.
Through Mr. Chair, mine was stuck together. Maybe for some reason the staple might have caught, because I had to pull it off, and I found both of them.
Oh, let me just have a look here. No, it's not stuck with the previous one either. I'm sorry.
Oh.
We'll just wait for Ms. Hope, and we'll.
Thanks.
While we're waiting, maybe one of you gentlemen can tell me what the report for 98 is. Is it for variances, or is it a severance, or what is 98?
Very similar.
Okay, very similar in terms of minor variances.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, basically, the houses were constructed together, and the same problem with one is the same as the other, basically. And yeah, they were laid out by my company incorrectly, and it was let's say a GPS glitch. There's two coordinate systems that are commonly used. There's NAD 83 original, NAD 83 CSRS. They're about 1 foot difference, north-south shift. And the information was gathered in original and was taken to be CSRS. And anyways, it's a technical mistake. There wasn't anything, there's no, I don't know what the word is for it, but wasn't deliberate anyways.
Okay, well, I do have in my summary sheet, I do have application A044/20 at 98 Mill Street. And I'd have A045/20 at 100 Mill Street. And apparently the rest of our members, they have both reports. So I'm going to carry on and ask if anyone in the audience wishes to address these applications at 98 and 100 Mill Street.
Hey, Mr. Chair, we have Mr. Amir Hossain.
Very good, thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Amir Hussain. I'm in Sadeh. I'm the owner of 96 Mill Street. I'm not so familiar with this system. I just want to make sure and just understand what would be that minor variance. If there is some issue or any problem happened on the layout and the survey of that building, I just need to know how it's going to affect my property, and what would that kind of variance will affect on the, on 96 Mill Street. This is all I need to understand. So that was the reason I am in this meeting.
Thank you. Maybe our applicant can address that concern, please.
Yeah, I'll just grab my copy of the plan. Okay. Well, that side of the house is literally 2.5 inches closer to the property line than it was supposed to be. 7 centimeters is 3 inches, and it's a little bit more. It's like 3.5 inches at the back corner. Otherwise, that side of the house is fairly close. The 96 house is fairly close to the property line there. It's, I don't know what the arrangement was in the past, whether there was, there isn't really room to go by there. At least staying on your own property, because the number 96 is like 11 inches off the property line. Otherwise, it doesn't really affect your property in any negative impact anyways. I don't know what.
So sorry, I just want to understand. So what are you saying is that the building footprint, right now it is around 3 inches closer to my property. It's supposed to be 3 inches, further than whatever it is right now.
Yes, it's supposed to be 1.5, and it's the closest is 1.42.
So, and one of the other reason I bring up that subject because recently I was there and I saw the fence that these guys installed on the backyard. If I just go a straight line, it will end up somewhere on the building line instead of being between two lots. So this was the reason I thought that it is not laid out correctly. And now you're telling that it is around 3 inches off. So if this is the case, what will happen if in the future, and I don't know who can answer or reply back to my concern here. If I ended up building, demolishing and building a new house, what will happen between these two houses in the future? Is it gonna affect the building footprint that I will be authorized to get, or how we are going to address it? I don't know that part.
Well, as I can't see that it would affect you or impact you negatively. I mean, you would be subject to the same setbacks. So instead of being virtually 1 foot away from the line, you're going to also have to conform to the 1.5 meters, which is going to give, basically 3 meters or close to 10 feet between the houses instead of right now there's basically 6 feet. So
if there is a minimum distance between two houses, basically it means that I need to maintain it later on if I want to build a new house. This is what I'm understanding right now.
No, you don't. No, you would very likely have to come to the Committee of Adjustment if you were to build a new house, if you were going to be anywhere closer to that side lot line than 1.5 meters. Just the same as your neighbor's coming to us right now. He's coming to us right now looking for 4.65 feet. So you're going to have a house that's 4.65 feet away from your lot line. And if you're only 11 inches or 12 inches away right now, you will definitely have to come to the Committee of Adjustment in the future if you were to build, because that's far too close to the lot line. That's your issue, not your neighbor's issue.
right. The thing is that the reference line for setbacks isn't your neighbor's house, it's the lot line.
Correct.
So everything's referenced to the lot line. So anything that you do in the future is going to reference to the lot line, and the location of the house as it is now won't affect your application.
I see. Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Any further comments or any concerns from our audience? Anyone else wish to speak?
You, Mr. Chair, there are none.
Thank you. And do we have any further comments from planning?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no further comments.
Thank you. And gentlemen, any comments, questions, or concerns? In that case, I'll entertain a motion. Go ahead, Mr. Gandhi.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I move that minor variance application A044/20 and A045/20 at 98 Mill Street and 100 Mill Street be approved, subject to the terms and conditions laid on the city staff report.
Moved by Member Gandhi, seconded by Member Gossi. All in favor? Approved. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.